common percentages. Okay, we're going to start from 100% and figure out many other common percentages. The first percentage that's easy to find is 10%. If 2,000 is the original amount, we call it 100%. To find 10%, we divide this by 10 and we get 200. To find 5%, we go to our 10% and divide that by 2. So 200 divided by 2 is 100, because 5% is half. Now, to find a 1%, we go back up to 10% and we divide this by 10. So 200 divided by 10 gives us 20. Okay. So again, to find the 1%, we went back up to 10%. Now to find the 2%, we go to the 1% and double it, because 1 times 2 is 2, so 20 times 2 is 40. Now the 12%. The 12% can be found by combining the answers from the 10% and the 2%. That'll be the 200 and the 40. So combining these two gives us 240, and that's our 12%. Next, our 20%. We can find 20% by going up to 10% and basically doubling the 10%. So doubling 10% gives us 20%. Doubling 200 gives us 400. Next, 300. 10% of 300, we divide by 10 and we get 30. That's 10%. To find 5%, we go to 10% and divide it by 2. So if you take 10% divided by 2, you get 5%, and 30 divided by 2 gives you 15. Okay. To get your 1%, we go back up to 10% and divide by 10. So 10% divided by 10 is 1, and 30 divided by 10 is 3. Okay. To get your 2%, you can take your 1% and multiply it by 2. 1% times 2 is 2. 3 times 2 is 6. This is 15%. To get 15%, you can use your 10% and your 5%. 10% is 15. So 30 added to 15 is 45. To get my 20%, I'm going to use my 10%. 10% times 2 is 20%. So 30 times 2 is 60. Next, to get 10%, if 20 is 100%, we're going to divide by 10. So 100% divided by 10 is 10. 20 divided by 10 is 2. Okay. 10% divided by 2 is 5. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. Okay. To get 1%, we use 10%. So 10% divided by 10 is 1. So 2 divided by 10 is 0.2. Okay. So we have to add a decimal there. All right. 1% times 2 gives us 2%. So 0.2 times 2 gives us 0.4. Okay. 3% can come from 1% plus 2%, which is 3%. So 0.2 plus 0.4 is 0.6. Okay, 20%, let's go up here. 10% times 2 is 20%. So 2 times 2 is 4. Okay. 6,000 is 1,000%. Sorry, 6,000 is 100%. 100% divided by 10 is 10%. So 6,000 divided by 10 is 600. 10% divided by 2 is 5%. 600 divided by 2 is 300. Okay, for 1%, let's go back to 10. 10% divided by 10 is 1%. So 600 divided by 10 is 60. Okay. 1% times 2 is 2%. 60 times 2 is 120. 11% can come from 10% plus 1%. 10% plus 1% is 11%. So 600 plus 60 is 660. 20% can come from 2 times 10%. 10% times 2 is 20%. So 600 times 2 is 1,200. Okay. This is 100%. This is the original, 700. 100% divided by 10 is 10%. 700 divided by 10 is 70. 10% divided by 2 gives you 5%. 70 divided by 2 gives us 35. Okay, for 1%, we're going to use 10%. 10% divided by 10 is 1%. 70 divided by 10 is 7. 1% times 2 is 2%. 7 times 2 is 14. 7% can come from 5% plus 2%. 5% plus 2% is 7%. 35 plus 14 is 49. 20% can come from 10%. 10% times 2 is 20%. 70 times 2 is 140. Okay, 60, 1%. 100% divided by 10 gives us 10%. 60 divided by 10 gives us 6. Half of 10% is 5, or 10% divided by 2 is 5. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 1%. 10% divided by 10 is 1%. So 6 divided by 10 is 0.6. 2% is 1%, or 1% times 2 is 2%. So 0.6 times 2 is 1.2. 4%. 2% times 2 is 4%. So 1.2 times 2 is 2.4. 10% times 2 is 20%. 6 times 2 is 12.